I was 74 years old when I stood in my own doorway, holding a folded piece of paper that had my cousin's name on it instead of mine. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely read it, but I didn't need to, because she was already inside, sitting in my chair, speaking to someone on the phone like I didn't exist. I remember the way she looked at me that morning. Not with anger, not even with guilt. Just calm, like everything had already been decided. And that's when I realized something I should have seen coming long before. I wasn't being asked to leave my house. I was being erased from it. Her name was Linda. Younger than me by 15 years, but she carried herself like she'd outlived us all. She had one leg crossed over the other, my old Afghan folded behind her back like it belonged there. I could hear her voice clear as day. "Yes, the paperwork is already in motion. No, he won't be a problem." I stood there longer than I should have. My own hallway smelled different, like her perfume had settled into the walls overnight. Sweet and sharp. Unfamiliar. "Linda," I said finally. She didn't flinch, just lifted her eyes to me. Slow, measured, like I was interrupting something minor. "Oh, you're back." Back, like I had gone somewhere. Like this hadn't been my house for 32 years. "I never left," I said. She gave a small smile, polite, almost kind. "We'll talk in a minute." Then she turned away again. That was the first moment something inside me cracked. Not loud, not sudden. Just a quiet split, like old wood giving under pressure. I set my keys down on the table by the door. The same table my wife, Carol, had picked out back in '89. My hand rested there longer than needed, like I was asking it to confirm something still belonged to me. From the kitchen, I heard a drawer open. Silverware. Mine. "Where's Mark?" I asked. That got her attention. She ended the call without another word and looked straight at me. "He's handling things," she said. Handling things. My son had that phrase too. Always said it when he didn't want to explain something. "When did this start?" I asked. Linda stood up slowly, smoothing her blouse like she was preparing for a meeting. "You signed the documents, Robert." I felt something drop in my stomach. "I signed what?" She tilted her head slightly, almost sympathetic. "You really don't remember?" That was the moment. Right there, when fear crept in. Not loud, not panic, just a cold, quiet realization that something had been moving behind my back for a long time, and I had let it happen. Because the truth was, the last time I signed anything Linda handed me, Mark was sitting right beside her, and he didn't say a word. I didn't say anything after that. Not right away. My mind went back. Not days, not weeks, but months. Little things I had brushed off at the time. Papers on the kitchen table. Linda visiting more often than she used to. Mark telling me, "Just sign it, Dad. It's routine." Routine. I stepped further into the house, slow, careful, like I was afraid the floor might reject me next. "You want coffee?" Linda asked, already moving toward the kitchen like she owned the question. I almost laughed at that. Coffee? In my own house? Like I was a guest who needed hosting. "No," I said. "I want to know what that paper is." She glanced at the folded document still in my hand. "It's a property transfer notice." The words didn't land all at once. They settled heavy, like dust covering something I wasn't ready to see. "A transfer to who?" I asked, even though I already knew. She didn't hesitate. "To me?" There it was, plain, clean, like it had always been that way. I looked down at the paper again, forcing my eyes to focus. Her name sat where mine used to be, neat and official, like it belonged there more than I ever did. "That's not possible," I said. Linda leaned against the counter, arms folded. Calm. Too calm. "It is when it's signed and notarized." My throat tightened. I never agreed to that. She gave me that same small smile again. "You signed it, Robert." From upstairs, I heard a door creak. Footsteps. Mark came down slowly, one hand on the railing. He looked tired, but not confused, not surprised, just prepared. "Dad," he said, like we were picking up a conversation we'd paused earlier. I turned to him. "Tell me what she's talking about." He didn't answer right away, just walked into the kitchen, poured himself a glass of water, drank it like he needed time. "Mark," I said again, sharper now. He set the glass down. "You remember the refinancing paperwork?" he asked. I felt my chest tighten. "That was for the roof," I said. "You said it was for repairs." He nodded slowly. "Yeah, that's how we explained it." The room felt smaller all of a sudden. "You explained it?" I repeated. Linda stayed quiet. Let him do it. Mark rubbed the back of his neck. "You were having a hard time back then, Dad. Forgetting things, mixing stuff up." "I was grieving," I said. "Your mother had just died." "I know," he said quickly. "I know. But you weren't really tracking everything." There it was again, that careful tone. Like I was fragile, like I couldn't be trusted with my own memory. "So you decided to what?" I asked. "Handle things." He looked down. "We thought it'd be easier if the house was in Linda's name for now." "For now," I repeated. Linda finally spoke again. "It protects the property, taxes, liabilities, complications you wouldn't want to deal with." I stared at her. "My name protects this house," I said quietly. "It always has." She didn't respond to that. Mark stepped closer. "Dad, listen. This isn't a big deal. You can stay here. Nobody's kicking you out." I let that sit between us. "You can stay here. Not you live here. Not this is your home. Just stay. Like a favor." I looked around the room, the walls, the table, the chair where I used to sit every morning with Carol. And for the first time in my life, nothing in that house felt like it recognized me. "You already decided everything," I said. Mark didn't deny it. "That's not true," he started, but I raised my hand. "No," I said, softer now. "It is." Linda picked up her phone again, like the conversation was winding down. "There are still a few formalities," she said. "We'll go over them later." I stood there, in the middle of my own kitchen, listening to my life being discussed like paperwork. And that's when I noticed something I hadn't seen before. On the counter, next to the sink, a stack of envelopes, official ones, all addressed to her, at my address, and every single one of them had already been opened. That's when I understood. This didn't happen recently. This had been happening right in front of me, piece by piece, while I was still living there. I didn't touch the envelopes. I just stood there, staring at them like they might explain something if I waited long enough. "They're just utilities," Linda said, noticing where I was looking. "Insurance, tax notices, nothing you need to worry about." Nothing I needed to worry about. I walked closer anyway, picked one up. My hands weren't shaking this time. They felt stiff, like they didn't belong to me either. The name on the front wasn't mine. It hadn't been for a while. "How long?" I asked, still looking at the envelope. Neither of them answered right away. That silence, it told me more than anything they could have said. "How long has my name been off this house?" I asked again, louder. Mark shifted his weight. It didn't happen all at once. I let out a slow breath. "Then when did it start?" Linda stepped in before he could speak. "About a year ago." A year. I tried to place myself back there. What I was doing, what I was feeling. That was around the time my doctor adjusted my medication, when I started sleeping more during the day, when Mark insisted on coming by every weekend. Helping out, he called it. "You brought her here," I said to him. Mark didn't deny it. "She needed a place for a while," he said. "You said it was fine." I nodded slowly. "A few weeks," I said. "That's what I said." Linda smiled faintly. "Plans change." "No, people change." "You moved your mail here," I said. "It made things easier." "For who?" I asked. She didn't answer. I set the envelope back down, carefully, like if I moved too fast, something else might disappear. "I want to see everything," I said. "All of it, every paper I signed." Mark hesitated. That was the first real crack I saw in him. "Dad, it's a lot. Legal stuff. You wouldn't—" I said I want to see it. My voice didn't rise, but it held. He looked at Linda. That look between them, like they needed to check with each other. That's what hurt more than anything else. Finally, Linda nodded toward the hallway. "It's in the study," she said. "Organized. Organized." I walked past them without another word. Down the same hallway I'd painted myself, the same one Carol used to decorate for Christmas every year. My steps felt heavier now, like each one had to prove something. The study door was open. Inside, everything was neat. Too neat. My desk cleared. My papers gone, in their place. 3 folders. Labeled in black ink: property, financial, medical. I stopped right there, slowly. I reached for that folder first. When I opened it, the first page hit me harder than anything else that morning. My name was there, but not as the owner, not as the decision maker, as the subject. Cognitive decline assessment. I felt my chest tighten. Below it, a doctor's signature. Not mine, not anyone I remembered agreeing to. And underneath that, a recommendation: assisted decision authority. My fingers went cold. Behind me, I heard Linda's voice from the doorway. We had to make sure everything was handled responsibly. I didn't turn around, because in that moment, reading words that quietly declared I wasn't capable of handling my own life, I realized something far worse than losing the house. They hadn't just taken my name off the property. They had started removing me, piece by piece, from myself. And the worst part was, there were still 2 folders left unopened, sitting right in front of me, waiting to show me just how far it had already gone. I didn't open the other folders right away. I just stood there, holding that medical report, reading the same line over and over like it might change if I gave it enough time. Cognitive decline. I had been forgetting things. Sure. Names sometimes. Where I left my glasses. But this wasn't that. This was something official. Something stamped and signed. Something used. I finally turned around. "Who arranged this?" I asked. Linda didn't hesitate. "Your doctor recommended it." "My doctor?" I said. "Dr. Harris." Mark stepped in. It was a specialist, Dr. Klein. You saw him twice. I stared at him. "I never agreed to that." "You did," he said quietly. "You just don't remember." That word again, remember. It was becoming their shield, their excuse for everything. I set the folder down slowly. "And this gave you the right to do what?" I asked. "Sign things for me? Move money? Transfer my house?" Mark's jaw tightened. "It gave us the ability to help you." "Help me," I repeated. Linda walked into the room then, calm as ever, and placed her hand lightly on the back of my chair, like she was settling into a position that had always been hers. "You were vulnerable, Robert," she said. "Bills were being missed. Notices were coming in. Mark was concerned." I looked at him. "You were concerned." He didn't meet my eyes this time. "I was trying to keep things stable," he said. Stable. I let out a quiet breath. "So you brought her in." "She knows how to handle this kind of thing," he said quickly. "Paperwork, legal stuff." I nodded slowly. "Yes," I said. "I can see that." My eyes drifted back to the desk. 2 folders left. Property. Financial. I reached for the property folder next. Linda didn't move. Mark didn't stop me. That was worse than anything. They were letting me see it now, because it was already done. I opened it. Right on top, a deed transfer, clean, official, recorded. My signature sat at the bottom. I stared at it for a long time. It looked like mine. Same loops, same line, same careless tilt at the end. But I didn't remember signing it. Not like this, not for this. Below it, more documents, authorization forms, notarized statements, witness signatures, dates, all spaced out over months. Not one moment, not one decision. A process, careful, slow, quiet. I felt something tighten in my chest. Not panic, not anger. Something heavier, understanding. "You didn't do this all at once," I said softly. "No," Linda replied. "You waited," I said. "You watched. You let things build." She didn't deny it. That's how these things are handled properly. Properly. I flipped to the next page, and that's when something didn't line up. A date. I leaned closer. My heart gave a slow, heavy thud. "That day," I said, almost to myself. Mark shifted behind me. "What about it?" I turned slightly, holding the paper. "I was in the hospital that day." Silence. Real silence this time. Not careful, not controlled, just still. "I had pneumonia," I said. "You drove me there, Mark. I stayed 3 nights." He didn't answer. I looked at Linda. "This says I signed it at home." She didn't speak. My voice dropped. "So tell me something." I held the paper up between us. "Who exactly signed this for me?" That was the first moment Linda's calm slipped. Just barely. But I saw it. And Mark. Mark finally looked at me. Not like I was confused, but like I had just stepped somewhere I wasn't supposed to. And that's when I understood something even worse than before. This wasn't just manipulation anymore. This was something they couldn't explain away. Mark didn't answer me. Not right away. He just stood there, staring at the paper in my hand like it might disappear if he didn't acknowledge it. Linda, on the other hand, recovered quicker than I expected. She stepped forward, calm returning to her face like nothing had happened. "You authorized representation," she said. "There were contingencies in place." I shook my head slowly. "No," I said. "Don't do that. Don't dress it up." My voice felt different now. Not confused, not uncertain, clear. "I was in a hospital bed," I continued, "hooked up to oxygen. I couldn't even hold a pen steady. And you expect me to believe I signed legal documents at home?" Mark finally spoke. It wasn't like that. I looked at him. "Then what was it like?" He swallowed hard, and for the first time since I walked in, he looked not prepared, but cornered. "You signed most of it before," he said. "We just finalized things while you were recovering." Finalized. "That's not what this says," I replied, tapping the paper. "This says I signed it that day, in this house." Linda crossed her arms slightly. "The notary confirmed identity based on documentation already on file." I let out a slow breath. "So you used my signature," I said. "Moved dates around, filled in the gaps." Mark stepped forward quickly. "We didn't forge anything." I turned to him. "Then explain it to me," I said quietly, "because right now, it sounds exactly like that." He opened his mouth, then closed it again. That was the moment the truth settled in. Not all at once, but enough. They hadn't just guided me. They hadn't just helped. They had taken advantage of every weak moment, every distracted day, every time I trusted them enough not to question what was in front of me, piece by piece, until there was nothing left to take. I set the paper back down carefully. "You planned this," I said. Linda didn't respond. "You moved in, changed the mail, brought in doctors I didn't know, built a record, created a version of me that couldn't argue back." Mark shook his head. "That's not fair." I looked at him, really looked at him. "When did you decide I was easier to replace than to talk to?" I asked. That hit him. I saw it in his face, the flicker, the discomfort, but it passed, because whatever line he had crossed, he had already made peace with it. "You weren't managing things anymore," he said. "The house was falling behind, bills were stacking up. You wouldn't listen." "I didn't know," I said. "You should have," he snapped, and then immediately softened his tone. "We were trying to fix it before it got worse." I nodded slowly. "And putting the house in her name fixed it?" I asked. "It protected it," Linda said. "No," I said. "It transferred it." Silence again. Heavy this time. Final. I glanced down at the financial folder but didn't open it. I didn't need to. I already knew what I'd find. Accounts moved, access changed, my life reassigned. "You didn't just take the house," I said quietly. "You made it so I couldn't take it back." Mark didn't deny it. That was the answer. That was the truth they had been holding back since the moment I walked in. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't protection. This was ownership. I looked around the room one more time. At the desk, the walls, the quiet order they had created in a place that used to feel lived in. Then I said something I hadn't planned to say, something that surprised even me. "Then I guess I don't live here anymore." Mark's head snapped up. "Dad?" But I raised my hand. "No," I said. "Don't." Linda watched me carefully now, like she was recalculating something. "You're upset," she said. "This doesn't have to be dramatic." I almost smiled at that. "It already is," I said. I walked past them, back down the hallway, toward the front door. Neither of them tried to stop me. Not because they didn't care, but because they didn't have to. My hand rested on the doorknob for a moment. Same door, same house, different reality. And as I stepped outside, I realized something that hadn't fully hit me until then. They hadn't just taken everything from me. They had made it look like I gave it away. The air outside felt colder than it should have. Not winter cold, just empty. I stood on the porch for a moment, my hand still resting on the door behind me, like I expected it to open again, like someone might call me back and say it had all been a mistake. No one did. I walked down the steps slowly. Same steps I had shoveled every winter. Same railing Carol used to decorate with lights, always too early in November. Halfway to the sidewalk, I stopped. Something made me turn around. The curtains in the front window shifted slightly, and, for just a second, I saw Linda's silhouette move past. Not hiding, not watching, just living. Like I had already been removed from the picture. I kept walking. My legs felt steady, but there was a weight in my chest I couldn't shake. Not sharp, not overwhelming, just constant. Like something had settled there and decided to stay. At the end of the driveway, I reached into my pocket. My keys. I held them in my hand for a long time. Front door, back door, garage. All of them still mine, at least in metal. I looked at the house again, then back at the keys, and without thinking too much about it, I turned, walked to the mailbox, opened it, and set them inside. Closed the lid. Just like that, a clean gesture, simple, final. A car passed by on the street. The driver didn't look at me. Nobody slowed down. Nothing in the world marked what had just happened. I stepped onto the sidewalk and started walking. No plan, no bag. Just the clothes I was wearing and whatever I could still carry inside me. About halfway down the block, I heard the front door open behind me. Mark's voice. "Dad!" I didn't turn around. His footsteps came faster, catching up. "Dad, wait!" I stopped, but I didn't face him. "What?" I asked. He was breathing a little heavier when he reached me. "You're overreacting," he said. "You can stay. We already talked about that." Stay. I let that word sit there between us one last time. "I don't stay in places where I don't exist," I said. He ran a hand through his hair. "That's not what this is." "It is," I replied. Silence stretched out. Cars in the distance, wind through the trees. Normal sounds. For a life that wasn't mine anymore. "Where are you going?" he asked. I thought about that, really thought about it. And the truth was, I didn't know. So I told him the only honest thing I had left. "I'm leaving." He waited for more. An address, a plan, something to hold on to. I didn't give him anything else. After a moment, his footsteps faded behind me. I kept walking, didn't look back, didn't stop, and after a while, I couldn't hear the house anymore. If this story meant something to you, subscribe. There's more to come.